and Bradley Chubb. So let's start there, and then we'll get into the news today that he just signed a big-time extension. Were you surprised? Obviously, Denver didn't want to pay him. Were you surprised they moved on from Bradley Chubb? Oft injured would be the one thing you could point to for the edge here.
Right, and I think to me there's a couple factors. First of all, they made a decision they were not going to extend him. So once they made that decision, they then said to themselves, Bradley Chubb's value to us is a third-round pick a year from now, a compensatory 3 in 2024, let's say, okay? So whatever we get today for him, if it doesn't impact our chances that greatly, then let's go ahead and do it. So there's two moves that signal this, right? So they didn't want to pay him. So Miami goes ahead and gives them a first-round pick, which basically has more value than a compensatory third 2 years from now. Significant upgrade. So on the draft chart, they got a lot of points for that. Great trade. So it's a great trade for Denver. Then they trade for Jacob Martin, who's not nearly the player caliber of Chubb, but he can play a role one of the roles that Chubb played to go along with Browner and Gregory when he comes back. So for the little bit that they lost in Chubb, they gained a little bit back, and they got a 1. It's a great trade. So they couldn't say no to that trade. And Miami knew they weren't going to say no to that trade because Miami basically double dipped down. So then Miami says, okay, we'll give you the 1, but we need to have time to work a parameter deal out with Chubb's attorneys so we can understand what we're getting into and how this is going to affect our cap today, tomorrow, and the next year. And so that happened. And then once they kind of got the framework of that deal done, they announced the trade, and then it was off to the races.
So you loved it from the Broncos' perspective. Today, 5-year extension worth $110 million. The Finns extend Bradley Chubb. So he's going to be there through the 2027 season. What did you think about it from Miami's perspective?
Well, look, I love Chubb coming out, but I was disappointed Chubb as a pro. I thought he was going to be more of an elite rusher. I think he's a good rusher. I don't think he's an elite rusher. I don't think he's one of those guys that you have to say, we got to take him out of the game. I think certain tackles he's going to play good against, certain tackles he might not play as well against. I think he's a good player. I think he's a solid. Do I think he's a blue chip player? No, I don't. I think he's 7-0. I think he's in that 6-0 to 6-4 category. So for Miami, I think they were 25th in the league in sacks per play, right? They don't really rush the passer very effectively. Their defensive numbers have been very bad and steadily declining as this year has gone on, evidenced by the 31 points they gave up in Detroit in the first half. Now, they fixed it in the second half, partly because of some of the errors that Detroit made. But it's a move that they're going all in. I mean, the owner's in his 80s. He's made it very clear when he announced the building of the new facility. He said, I expect to win a Super Bowl very soon. So they feel like they've got everything in order. They got the quarterback that they want. They got the receivers that they want. Now they got a pass rusher. We'll see. Do I love it? I don't love paying a 1 for Chubb, and I especially don't like paying all that money for Chubb.
Similar to what the Broncos did, the Lions decided they didn't want to pay T.J. Hockenson. So they send him in division to the Vikings. Remember, the Vikings got desperate because they're going to be without Irv Smith Jr., with a high ankle. So Hockenson, who's a very good player, maybe a little overrated, can't block, those type of things, but he's as far as stretching the field as a tight end, he can do that for you now.
No doubt. I mean, look, and for Detroit, you say, why would Detroit trade in division? Well, Detroit basically got double instead of taking the 3, they got a 2. They're going to get a 3 for him in compensatory. So they got that. So what Minnesota overpaid for the value. Okay, that's what they did, and that's how these trades were getting done this year. Everybody was paying more than the compensatory, which is the only reason why you would trade the guy. Why would I trade him unless I want him out of the building for anything less than a compensatory? And teams are saying, okay, we'll give you more. We'll overpay you. It's like owning a home and you put the sale price up at $1 million, and then now you have 3 bids at 1.5. You know what I mean? You got to sell it.
So,
but if somebody only offers you $800 for the house and you want $1 million, now I'm going to hang on to this for a little while.
Right. Sorry to interrupt. Let's go ahead and throw that up. The one thing that frustrated me, Michael, is I felt like the Lions had a little leverage there. Of course, Minnesota was desperate to get a tight end. Why would they then return for 2 4th-rounders, right? Couldn't have Holmes just said, no, I'm not doing that, and then Minnesota's going to be like, okay, I know I'm getting nitpicky, but it did feel like going back the other way with 2 4th-rounders.
Well, here's how I think here's how it worked, okay? So basically they used the 3rd-round compensatory as the baseline, that total point, okay? So, and that total point has to be present valued to the day today, to today, right? So in 2024, you get a 3. What is a 3 in 2024 worth in 2023? Okay? So now what's that worth? Okay, so how do I make that better? So basically, this was all done analytically by points. And so what he should have done is said, okay, he probably didn't have very many other offers that were above this. So he did the best deal he could based on points. My question to the Lions is simply, what is your plan? What is your plan?
I'm sorry, I'm laughing. Let's talk about the impact on the field for Minnesota. Minnesota, of course, this weekend, they are at the Commanders. Drama, of course, with the Commanders right now, but they're laying 3. A couple of shops showing 3.5. Hockenson gives that security to Cousins. Do you like his mesh here with this team?
You know, I do, because I think in chess and in football, controlling the middle of the field is so important, and especially in the offense that Kevin O'Connell runs. You got to have a tight end. You got to have somebody that can really do the things inside to go along with your outside receiver, Justin Jefferson. So I think it gives them another guy that can help them control the ball. Their numbers are really good when you watch them play and you grade them over the 19 categories in terms of what determines winning. So I do. I think they paid a heavy price for it. But I think at the end of the day, they get themselves a pass-catching tight end that can make plays in the middle of the field, and this will help Jefferson as much as anything.
Visit VSiN.com to get current odds, listen for free, find showtimes, and download VSiN sports betting podcasts.